Good evening. My name is John Brown. I intend to seize this arsenal and all its armaments and use them to free the Negroes of this state. If you or anyone else seek to interfere with my plan, you must burn this town to the ground, flood its thoroughfares with blood. Keys to the arsenal, please. With 2 sons and 16 friends, seized the United States Arsenal at Harper's Ferry, Virginia, on the night of October 16, 1859. And there are those who say the Civil War began that evening.
Cleveland, put a fire to that stove. We'll have hostages to look to before this night is done.
Gentlemen, we stand for the first time on slaveholders' ground. If we succeed in our mission here, by next day's nightfall, the Negroes of this benighted state will have heard of our coming, will have flocked to our banner. From the plantations, the farms, across that threshold they'll step. From captivity into freedom, from darkness into light, from humiliation into brotherhood. And then together, all of us will return whence we came, where we will reprovision and rearm and again set out. Our ranks swollen by the tens and the thousands who have rallied to us to scourge Virginia's ground of the filth that pervades it. My son Oliver will now recite the roster of your duties. I admonish you to attend to him closely. Oliver.
Yes, Paul. For to secure the bridge and to guard it, Albert Hazlitt, John Copeland.
Smartly now, friends.
For to garrison the arsenal and to hold it against all attempts at recapture and to seize and make prisoners of all those who seek to enter it. My brother Watson Brown and William Thompson.
No, lad. I'll have Watson here at headquarters for a while. You may take his place at the gates, Oliver.
But, Paul, you said...
Now, we've not time for bickering, lad. We're an invading army clinging to the edge of a foreign land.
But, Paul...
Now, speaking as your commanding officer.
Yes, sir. For the gates, then. Will Thompson and me, Oliver Brown. For to seize the rifle works, John Henry Kagi and John Copeland. For to seize hostages and bring them along with their slaves back to Army headquarters, Aaron Stevens, Osborne Anderson, and Shields Green.
For to seize hostages and bring them along with their slaves. This was the keystone of the whole audacious scheme. The old man wanted some illustrious names to call attention to his crusade. And this one had one of the most illustrious names in all America.
Welcome to my headquarters, Colonel Washington.
The devil are you?
You were not told.
I was not. I was dragged from my bed and suffered a few odd bits of my clothing to be flung at me.
Including, I observe, a pair of kid gloves.
My fingers are rheumatic.
Step to the stove and warm them, sir.
I'll step no further till I know who you are, what I am doing here, and upon what authority my slaves have been made to accompany me.
You're here, Colonel Washington, because I was told you bear some slight relationship to a somewhat more famous man of the same name. Was I told correctly, sir?
My great-granduncle was General Washington, if that's what you're alluding to.
It is. The public is much taken with names. To have captured a Washington cannot but provide me with considerable attention. And attention, sir. Attention is one of my prime objects in this affair. As to your slaves, I have ordered them brought here. You see, they are no longer your slaves. They are free men as God intended them to be. Arm them. You are now soldiers in the army of the Lord.
Are you some kind of madman?
You could not think otherwise, Colonel, as you doubtless look upon yourself as thoroughly sane. And yet, for my part, I can't think of you as other than mad. For who but a madman could live in direct violation of the Lord's commandments and yet not fear his dread vengeance?
Heaven's name, who are you?
In heaven's name, sir, I am Captain John Brown of Osawatomie.
John Brown?
You've heard of me.
And of Potawatomi?
Reports on that matter have been sown through with erroneous observations.
Reports reaching us down here concern themselves with the cold-blooded massacre of 5 innocent settlers.
There was no massacre.
Have we been misinformed, then? Did not a man calling himself Old Brown, and sometimes Osawatomie Brown, go into Kansas with a band of followers, and at a place called Potawatomi, forcibly remove 5 innocent settlers from their homes and families and slaughter them?
We were not the only ones to spill blood in bleeding Kansas, Colonel Washington. Congress gave Kansas a choice, go free or go slave. It was you Southerners moving in with your guns to influence that choice that began the bloodletting.
I do not believe that you and your family are native Kansans, Mr. Brown. Did you not also move in to influence that choice?
We went to Kansas to teach God's commandments to those who were in need of such instruction. The 5 of whom you speak failed to benefit from such teaching.
So you slaughtered them. Yet I understand that those 5 were but poor settlers, scraping for a livelihood in the earth, and not possessing a slave among the lot of them.
They condone slavery.
As do I. More than that, I own slaves. So what is to be my punishment?
It was 12 o'clock. For an hour and a half, the arsenal had been in the undisputed possession of the old man. Not a shot had been fired, not a voice raised in alarm. Across the street from the arsenal, in the lobby of the wager house, the desk clerk went about his duties, unaware the town had fallen into enemy hands. While at the other end of the combination hotel lobby and station waiting room, a dozing baggage master was equally unmindful. So was Patrick Higgins when he came to relieve the night watchman.
Willie? Willie Williams. See the sleep you are instead of making your appointed rounds. Where are you, man? Do you want to be relieved or not, or what? Halt there! I never heard the word before, but I'm hoping it means run. Invasion! The arsenal has fallen. Sound the alarm! Rouse the town! Don't go near that door, man! Turn out! Turn out, everybody! Everybody up! Invasion! Bolt the door, man! The town has been invaded!
Halt there, you're a dead man! Stop, I say!
The first man to fall in John Brown's war to free the slaves was Shepard Hayward, a free Negro. Others were not to be long in following. By first light, Harper's Ferry was divided into two warring camps. The invaders held the arsenal and all of its works. The defenders had established their command post in the lobby of the Wager Hotel. In between lay no man's land, already stained with the blood of Shepard Hayward.
Watson, lad.
Yes, Paul?
You relieve the guards on the outpost now.
Yes. Lehman, Taylor, Stevens. Come along smartly now and hug the wall going out. There's a sharpshooter across the way.
Mr. Brown.
Mister's the plainest word, Colonel. Flat sounding in my ears. You may call me Old Brown, Osawatomie Brown, or Captain Brown if you like, sir.
You set great store by labels, Captain.
I want no misunderstanding of what I am, sir. Or of what my intentions are. This is no ragtag or bobtail band of bullies out to sow terror in the countryside. We are a military force. We have our ranks, our designations, our discipline. We also have our plan.
I see. In that case, I'd be delighted to hear of my place in it.
I shall be delighted to tell you, sir.
Cold, Paul.
Warm yourself, gentlemen. Does the Lord's work go well?
Arsenal's quiet, Captain. Hold the rifle works.
Everything's quiet, Paul. It's too quiet. I can see them filling up the hotel over there. By now, there's a rifle in every window facing here. And they moved in a bunch of militia and closed off that other bridge. That puts them in our rear, Paul.
When we light out, we only got the way we come. Unless they've closed that off, too.
Hardly a laudable position for a commander to place his troops in, Captain Brown. Or was it part of this daring plan of yours to trap your men and yourself between two rivers?
We are not unprepared for opposition, Colonel Washington. And although we did not come here to take life indiscriminately, I assure you, sir, we will deal most handily with those who seek to circumvent us.
I'm sure you will. I saw how handily you dealt with that poor baggage master. Was he seeking to circumvent you? Or were you planning to display his dead body as a means of inducing his fellow Negroes to join you in your noble crusade?
That man's death was an unfortunate accident for which we are all heavy-hearted this morning. We did not come here, as you well know, to slaughter innocent Negroes, but rather to free them from the bondage in which you and your kind have put them. My sadness and remorse at that unnecessary killing is sufficient not to require your reminding me of it.
You're a man of tremendous compassion, Captain Brown. Compassion, fervor, love of humanity. I sometimes think there's nothing deadlier on the face of this earth than a man imbued with nothing but noble qualities. Such a man can destroy whole worlds without a single thought of his own personal advancement.
Paul. They spliced the telegraph wires.
Well, who was guarding it?
Henry Kagi. But they must have come around by way of the Shenandoah Bridge and done it while he was bringing in prisoners.
That means that the whole countryside knows by now.
Did you think the work of the Lord depends for its success or failure on a few strands of copper wire? I advise all of you to take advantage of this temporary calm to eat your breakfast. In a few hours, we may find ourselves too occupied to indulge our appetites.
That's a point I wish to take up with you. These men, whom you choose to call your hostages, they haven't eaten for several hours. Whatever your mad scheme might be, the welfare of those you captured...
Thank you, sir. You recall to me not only my duties, but my manners as well. Oliver,
Paul?
we must share our rations with the captured. May I leave it to you to see that the division is made fairly?
Paul?
In doing the Lord's work, we cannot allow it to be said that we neglected...
Paul?
Oliver. Excuse me, sir.
Paul, we have no rations. There's nothing left. We can't even feed ourselves, let alone them. Our men are grumbling for food, too. I kept asking you, all last week I kept asking you, what are we gonna do after we take the ferry the very next day? You'd never answer, you'd never say.
Control yourself, boy. You're sounding like one of your sisters. A commander-in-chief has to see how the land lies before making his decisions.
Well, we know how the land lies. There's 19 of us. There's maybe 50 or 60 of them across the street. And there's more showing up every hour. We're surrounded, and besides that, there's not a bite of food for it.
Will you stop it, sir? Will you? Look at how you've got them staring at us. Do you think I don't know what I'm about, lad? I tell you, when the Negroes rise to join us, there will be food, and there will be help.
When is that gonna be?
As soon as they hear of our efforts on their behalf.
Well, they better hear about it pretty soon, then. For I want that the president has heard of our treason.
Across the street, the citizenry of Harper's Ferry were getting ready to take their town back from the apparent madmen who had seized it during the night.
Well, me buckos, is it going over there we are to drive them out or not, or what?
It's me pal, me bosom buddy, Willie Williams, that they're holding over there in Endurance Vile. And I'll not sit still under that, or my name is not Pat Higgins.
Well, we're gonna get them, Pat, just as soon as we get a little warmth in our bodies. I'm ready now. They killed old Hayden, didn't they?
Gentlemen, get them now.
Morning, Mayor.
May I have your attention, please?
Hi, Fontaine.
I have a message from President Buchanan. There's a detail of United States Marines currently on its way here. We may expect them by tonight. In addition, the Charlestown militia has formed up across the bridge. These two units will move in force against those rebels.
If there's anyone left to move in again...
Now, gentlemen, gentlemen, as your chief magistrate, I insist that nothing be done here to endanger life or property. This is a military matter. And as such, I ask you good people to leave it up to the proper military organizations.
Hey, here comes one of them. He's got somebody with him. It's Willie, with a gun in his back.
Now, what's this gonna be about?
I don't know. But it's mighty generous of him. I ain't had myself a buck all season. Wait a minute, don't shoot, man. That's Willie Williams out there.
I got a message from Osawatomie Brown, Commander-in-Chief of the Army of the Gileadites. Who you got there taking messages from Commander-in-Chiefs?
Don't go, Mayor. It's a trick.
If they just moved the weest bit, I could drill that blackamoor right between the eyes.
Patrick Higgins, I swear I'll put you in the lockup for disturbing the peace.
But I'm not another word. I'm going out there and talk to those people, do you hear?
My name is Fontaine Beckham. I'm the mayor of Harper's Ferry.
I guess you'll do then. Although a mayor ain't no commander-in-chief in my book.
Nor is a murderer in mine. However, whatever your leader calls himself, you tell him I have a message for him.
You ain't heard his yet.
Maybe mine will alter it. You tell him for me. Or if he's within earshot of my voice, let him hear it for himself. You tell him that his path is closed on the one side, and that in a matter of hours it will be closed on the other. And that if he has a thought in his head for the lives not only of his unfortunate prisoners, but for himself and his followers as well, he will lay aside his arms now and deliver himself into my custody. For I promise him that no harm shall come to himself or to his men. Have you heard me, mister? Have you heard me, you who call yourself Osawatomie Brown?
I guess everybody heard you, Mayor. Now, you want to hear Captain Brown's message?
Very well. What is it?
He wants whoever it is that does the cooking over there to quick make up for their breakfasts. And when they're done, send them over to the engine house. On account of there's some mighty hungry folks in there.
Wait a minute, boy! Lay down where you are! Breakfast is it? Try that carcass if it's not too gamey, boy!
The fighting continued throughout the night, and the bar in the Wager Hotel remained open, doing the best single night's business it had done since New Year's Eve 5 years before. In the opposing camp, there was less merriment, less to be merry about, fewer to be merry. The old man had marched blithely into Harper's Ferry 24 hours before with an army of 18. Where were those 18 a day and a night later? Dangerfield Newby, dead. Stuart Taylor, dead. John Keggy, dead. Leary, dead. Thompson, dead. Stevens, Anderson, Lehman, dead. And Oliver Brown, dying.
Paul! Paul!
What, lad? What do you want of me?
Paul, you've got to. I can't stand it anymore. Make an end to it. Kill me.
For shame, Oliver. I've taught you to live like a man.
Boy, you've got to.
You must not teach yourself to die like one.
Lad, can you not see how occupied I'm just now?
The Marines have crossed the bridge. They're forming up behind the railroad station. They might be getting ready to move in on us right now.
Watson, there's a position to fill there.
Yes.
Captain, will you pursue this madness till the last one of us is a dead man?
Had you thought to escape death forever, Colonel Washington?
No, sir, I had not. You seem to think you can escape judgment forever.
God is my judge.
He judges us all. Think how he will judge you for this.
I don't anticipate harsh judgment for upholding the Lord's commandments.
Thou shalt not kill is also one of the Lord's commandments. Look about you, man. Innocent people are perishing. Their own son lies dying there. And what have you accomplished? Nothing. Has a single slave risen to join you in this grotesque adventure? There sit my slaves, huddling in their corner, frightened out of their wits by your excesses. You have failed, Captain. And in order to save your mean, pinched, godless pride, you're prepared to sacrifice the lives of every person here.
Watson!
Yes, Pa?
Tie this to your rifle, boy. Go out there and make a parley with whomever commands those people across the way. Tell them old Brown agrees to suspend this battle, relinquish this land, release these prisoners, on condition he and his fellows be granted unmolested retreat whence we came.
Yes, sir.
Go, lad. Once again, I'm in your debt, Colonel. You recalled to me the one basic principle that must underlie all good causes. A ringing defeat can serve the purpose as much as a famous victory.
Can you see this flag of truce I'm holding?
now beats a full moon for a man to aim by.
Company, halt! Take cover, men.
Osawatomie Brown.
This is Osawatomie.
This is Lieutenant Stewart. Will you surrender to the United States Marine Corps, or will you risk the slaughter of all within there?
Will you guarantee our unmolested retreat?
We will guarantee only your lives.
Those are already guaranteed by a power greater than yours. All right, men, take up your arms, men! Remember the Lord's words, fight them hip and thigh! Watch them, lad. If you've the strength to fight, rise up and join them.
Smash in that door!
All right, gentlemen.
Watson Brown, dead. Oliver Brown, dead. Dauphin Thompson, dead. John Brown, captured.
Hath committed treason to the Commonwealth of Virginia, hath conspired with slaves to commit murder, and hath committed murder of the first degree upon citizens of the Commonwealth. And for all such crimes, the Commonwealth of Virginia seeks and demands his death.
Has the defendant clearly heard the indictment? And if so, does he...
May it please the court.
Mr. Green for the defense.
With respect, defense moves to strike the first charge. Your Honor!
One moment, Mr. Harding. On what grounds, sir?
Your Honor, we submit the impossibility of defendant committing treason against the Commonwealth of Virginia on grounds that defendant is not now nor has ever been a citizen of the Commonwealth of Virginia, therefore incapable of...
No disorders, please. Motion denied. The indictment will stand as recited. Now, if the defendant has well and truly heard the charges and understood them, the court will hear and enter his plea. John Brown, do you...
Not guilty.
The court will rise until tomorrow morning at 9.
Your Honor has in your possession a report from Dr. Mason, the jail physician.
That slave-holding quack vouchsafed me.
Alleging that the prisoner's wounds
If
have
I
not
am to be
impaired
fairly
his hearing,
tried, sir, I should be permitted full use of my faculties.
nor his mind, nor in any way have made him unfit to stand
May I address
trial.
this court, sir?
Under the circumstances, I will allow it.
I'm obliged to you, sir. Virginians, I didn't ask to have my life spared. If you seek my blood, you can have it at any moment without this mockery of a trial. I am ready for my fate. There are certain mitigating circumstances that I would urge in my favor if a fair trial is to be allowed me. But if this is to be a mere form, a trial for execution, well, you might spare yourselves the trouble. I ask only that which conscience gives, or cowardice drives you to practice, and that I not be foolishly insulted as only cowardly barbarians insult those who fall into their power.
Oh, it was a terrible sight to see, terrible indeed. The way that poor colored man was shot down in cold blood, and our fine upstanding mayor too, and neither one of them with a weapon to defend himself. Murderers they are, black-hearted murderers. And I've no doubt they're violators of women and children as well.
Your Honor!
Quite right, Mr. Green. That last part may be disregarded.
And can it be admitted as proper testimony?
Informed me that my slaves were no longer to be considered my property, that he had freed them. When I asked him for his authority for such an action, he replied that God had given him the right to do so. When I further pressed him for an explanation of my role in this scheme, he said that he wanted me to write to certain of my acquaintances in the vicinity, demanding that they bring their slaves to him so that they could join his army of the Lord.
Said we were all free. Said he had some weapons for us and wanted us to join him. Said we'd be the first. But in a little while, all of us folks from all over the state would be rising up, smiting down our oppressors. Said he'd been picked by the good Lord to lead us to freedom.
Thank you, boy. Mr. Green.
Your Honor, I have no questions to ask this witness, but I beg leave to move.
State your motion.
I move that these proceedings be brought to a halt. That this trial be terminated, and that a directed verdict of acquittal of all charges be demanded.
On what grounds, Mr. Green?
Your Honor, what have we heard in this courtroom? We have heard testimony to the effect that John Brown and 18 men marched across the bridge into Harper's Ferry and blandly announced that they were seizing the government arsenal and freeing the slaves. We have heard that Colonel Lewis Washington was captured, held prisoner, and ordered to write letters. We have been told that the defendant, John Brown, believed the slaves of the state would flock to him. They would seize scythes and pitchforks and seek to throw off the so-called shackles of serfdom. Your Honor, can a recital of this list of inanities fail to suggest that the man I have been directed to defend by this court is not in possession of his senses? Your Honor, this man is a madman, and I move his acquittal on grounds of insanity.
I reject this defense. I won't accept it. I look upon this as a miserable artifice and pretext, and I view it with contempt, Your Honor. Insane people, as far as my experience goes, have but little ability to judge of their own sanity. And if I am insane, of course I must think I know more than all the rest of the world. But I do not think so. I am perfectly unconscious of insanity and reject as far as I am capable any attempt to interfere in my behalf on that score.
That statement itself...
Mr. Green, if the defendant himself rejects your plea...
It is a mark of madness to reject the only possible course of saving his neck from the noose.
At the request of Governor Wise, troops from nearby Fort Lee were dispatched to Charlestown to guard against any attempt by Northern abolitionists to swoop down and rescue the prisoner.
Captain Brown?
Who is this peacock you've taken in tow, Mr. Green?
Captain, my compliments. It's a rare pleasure, sir, a rare pleasure. I'm George Henry Hoyt, member of the bar from the state of Massachusetts.
I've seen more bristle on a skinned rabbit, boy.
Well, I'm 21 years old, Captain.
Mr. Hoyt has a letter from Governor Wise, Captain, authorizing him to act in your defense. Now, if you feel him qualified to act as your counselor, you may tell me so, sir, without fearing umbrage on my part.
I didn't request your services on my behalf, and I won't hold you to them against your will, sir.
No, sir. I have been appointed your counsel, and I shall only relinquish the appointment if it can be demonstrated that you will receive adequate counsel elsewhere. Now, I have discussed briefly with Mr. Hoyt the manner of case he intends to plead. I'm satisfied he is an able counselor. Remains now for you to decide after talking with him. Captain Brown, Mr. Hoyt.
Pleasure to have met you, Mr. Green. Well, Captain, you are a famous man. You've captured the enthusiasm, the pride, the sympathy of the world.
And been captured myself in the process.
Temporary incarceration, so you have my word on that. Look here, let me show you. The New York Herald, Topeka Tribune, Liberator, the New York Abendzeitung, the Richmond Enquirer, the London Times.
They say I'm a murderer, a madman. The misguided, wild, and apparently insane effort by insurrection to emancipate the slaves of under the leadership of Captain John alias Osawatomie. Why do you show me this?
Yes, they call you mad, they call you misguided, they call you a murderer, but look what they go on to say. Brown and his companions made themselves martyrs of a cause in itself noble. And although the mode in which they sought to advance it was not adapted to the end proposed, we still cannot refuse our respect for the self-sacrificing zeal with which they laid down their lives for it. Captain, don't you see? You haven't freed perhaps a single slave. You yourself, you've suffered grievous wounds, lost 2 sons you loved, but you've directed the eyes of the world toward the true nature of the awfulness you sought to bring to an end.
Let me see the clippings again. So it was not in vain?
Captain, I tell you, in Boston, you're the man of the hour, and I can say that the rest of New England shares that view, too. Now, shall we discuss our next moves?
Do you consider you will be able to secure my acquittal?
Captain, your freedom.
Are we not discussing the same thing, boy?
Captain Brown, your friends in the North didn't send me down here to waste time debating with a judge and jury whose minds have been made up by the very fact of their birth and position.
Then you're not an attorney.
Well, yes, sir, I am, properly accredited. But your needs, sir, are not for a lawyer. They are for a rescuing party.
You intend storming this jail?
I'm instructed, sir, to send to our friends in the North an accurate, detailed account of the military situation here. Distribution of troops, defenses of the jail, opportunities for a sudden attack, so that we will be...
But such an attempt can only fail. Have you not seen the drawn-up militia, the cannon?
Captain, you yourself assailed and took a United States arsenal with far less meticulous strategy than the... Captain, as your counsel, I strongly advise you place yourself entirely in our hands.
I have never placed myself in other hands than my own.
At the present moment, sir, you would appear to be in hands other than your own. And those hands are determined to hang you by the neck. My friends are proposing to free you. Your Honor, I have here a list of witnesses whose presence here in court is requested to testify on my client's behalf. May I submit these people for subpoenaing?
Is it usual in the Massachusetts courts, Mr. Hoyt, to submit lists of witnesses at so late a date?
Well, if it please the court, the date is not late for me. I'm newly appointed and must
Yes, very well, Mr. Hoyt. Let me see your list.
Thank you, Will.
Mr. Hoyt, you have Kansans, Ohioans, New Englanders listed here. Are you aware of the possible days and even weeks delay required to subpoena them?
Your Honor, we are dealing here with a man's life,
Your Honor,
not with a minor
this is simply
felony.
another trick.
Boy!
Trial. I say to the defense.
What is this you're about?
Prove the relevancy of these witnesses.
I will rule, Mr. Harding.
Time, Captain. We have to have time. Now listen to me. These beggars are going to have you strung up to the nearest tree by morning if we don't delay. All I need is time to put my plan into action. Your Honor, I would further like to ask that a physician be appointed to re-examine the defendant's physical condition, one who's acceptable to the defense. I have been informed... Order here! Order! I would like to submit the name of Dr. Howard P. McQueen of Yale University.
Your Honor, this is just one more form of obstructionism.
I have called for order. Will you turn everything I've been about into a circus, boy? Will you have the papers laugh us off the front page into their theatrical announcement?
Captain, I have drawings to make diagrams, reports. Now, our only hope is to delay
You'll delay us long enough to be forgotten. Or else they'll say not only is old Brown mad, but so is his lawyer and all that rallied to his cause. Now it's old Osawatomie that'll speak if nobody minds.
You will await my ruling on these submissions, Captain.
You needn't bother, Your Honor. The witnesses on that sheet there are naught to me, nor is a doctor from Yale needful. I can easily make do with the witnesses already asked for, and not a one of them's more than a fast 3-hour ride.
Your Honor, I ask for a 15-minute recess.
Your Honor, can nothing be
Your Honor, all that will be required is a 15-minute recess to consult with my client.
Mr. Hoyt, that is the first competent motion you have made since undertaking Captain Brown's defense. Granted.
Thank you, sir. Is it? possible that you cannot comprehend all I've said to you, I have come down here to free you.
For what?
For what? To carry on the fight.
I've never ceased fighting.
You cannot fight from a jail cell, nor from a courtroom, nor from a scaffold. We mean to set you back on the battlefield.
The great God of salvation chooses the battlefields upon which all must fight. If he has chosen this one.
God hasn't chosen this battlefield, Virginia has.
Are you so sure, boy? Does God speak to you?
Does he speak to you?
Just this morning, Mr. Hoyt. Through the editorial columns of those newspapers you brought me.
I didn't know that the Lord had taken up employment under Mr. Horace Greeley.
Don't blaspheme, boy. Will you bring his eternal curses down upon you, and you yet not a man enough to shave your face?
I beg your pardon. Captain, we have expended time and money and effort on this plan.
My plan is effortless and considerably less costly.
Your plan? Captain, if you will forgive me, our respect and admiration up north is for you. For what you stand for what you believe in, for your value as a symbol in the cause of anti-slavery. It is not for your plans. Captain, we admire you for what you did. We are appalled at the manner in which you did it. You marched into Harper's Ferry, perhaps with the word of God ringing in your ears without a thought in your head otherwise. You didn't even carry, Captain, you didn't even carry food for your men and yourself. You had no plan, sir. No plan at all.
You just listen to me, boy. I've had 2 wives and 20 children, and a lot of them are dead. Some before they were ever properly born. I've a boy dead in Kansas, 2 dead at Harper's. I've been here and there in the world, and I've worked at a lot of trades. I've read my Bible, believed in my gospel, and I've tried to live according to the Lord's light and the Lord's commandments. I'm an old man now. And here they're saying I'm a madman besides. I've taken life with my own hands and made some give up their lives for what I believed in. And there are folks like you saying I had no plan. But the Lord had a plan. And that's the one I'm following. It was he told me to go into Kansas and smite the slavers. It was he told me to go down into Harper's to serve suffering humanity. And it is he telling me now, through these newspapers, to climb up on that scaffold and let them spring the trap on me.
You intend to let them hang you?
I am fully persuaded that I am worth inconceivably more to hang than for any other purpose. If, young man, you and your friends can make sure they don't put no oil on those hinges of that trap, and that when I drop, and that rope goes tight around my neck, and the air is choked out of me, the screech of those hinges, and the snap of that rope, and the gasp of that air is heard. Can you and your friends do that, boy? Can you forget about these daredevil stunts and see to that? Can you make sure that every nail they hammer into my coffin rings and echoes from one end of this land to the other? And that one day those nails will be the nails in the coffin of slavery itself? Can you, boy? Can you? Can you?
The verdict was guilty. The sentence was death. The convicted man was asked if he had anything to say. Old Brown had something to say.
In the first place, I deny everything but what I have for so long admitted. of a design on my part to free the slaves. Had I interfered in the manner which I admit, and which I admit has been fairly proved here, had I so interfered in behalf of the rich, the powerful, the intelligent, the so-called great, or in behalf of any of their friends, either father, mother, brother, sister, wife, child, or any of that class, and suffered and sacrificed as I have in this interference, it would have been all right. Every man in this courtroom would have deemed it an act worthy of reward rather than punishment. This court acknowledges, I suppose, the validity of the law of God. I see a book being kissed here, which I suppose to be the Bible, which teaches me that all things whatsoever I would that men should do to me, I should then do to them. I endeavored to act up to that instruction. I am yet too young to understand that God is any respecter of persons. I believe that to have interfered as I have done, and as I have freely admitted I have done, in behalf of his despised poor, is not wrong, but right. But right. Now, if it is deemed necessary that I should forfeit my life for the furtherance of the ends of justice, and mingle my blood further with the blood of my children, and with the blood of millions of people in this slave country whose rights are disregarded by cruel and wicked and unjust enactments, I say, let it be done.
And it was done. They hanged the old man on December 2nd, 1859, and that was the day his soul commenced its march. From Charlestown, Virginia, it marched on, and on, and on through Fort Sumter, Gettysburg, Antietam, Appomattox. And there are those who say it marches still. Before previewing next week's great adventure, here is Gerald Goff, a teacher and member of the National Education Association, with a postscript on tonight's story.
Lincoln said that John Brown fancied himself commissioned by heaven. In this belief, Brown was not alone. The mob that murdered Elijah P. Lovejoy, an abolitionist editor in Illinois, believed that their cause was ordained by God, too. The congressman who assaulted sharp-tongued Senator Charles Sumner right in the Senate after Sumner made a bitter anti-slavery speech also believed that his violence was righteous. John Brown's acts, as much as those of any man of his time, added fuel to the flames of controversy which led inevitably to the Civil War. He was a man whose insistence that only his way was right helped push other men to bitter extremes on both sides. John Brown at Harper's Ferry reminds us that he who takes the law into his own hands destroys it.
Here are a few scenes from our next episode of The Great Adventure.
Come on, Waterhouse! We won't wait for a trial. Now get out! And take that filthy animal poison with you! Yeah!
I use Dr. Jenner's method because I believe it works. I vaccinated the little girl because I wanted to protect her from smallpox. I want to vaccinate all children everywhere, all adults, to protect them. Good heavens, gentlemen. I can't do it alone. I need help, support, acceptance.
Your mother feels that you never seem to bring any of your friends home here.
They say stupid things, like they did in the paper. I didn't mean for you to see it, Papa. It's not true. Any of it. I told them you weren't afraid of them, Papa. I told them you weren't afraid.